question. I mean, so there's a couple of moments in the film that I really love. One is actually when you're presenting the worksheet, right, of how you become a naturalist. We do a lot of, Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs, we do a lot of naturalization workshops, we do workshops on DACA, and for some reason, this is my second time seeing the film, and it's still very emotional. In my head, whenever I'm trying to explain to people why there is no line, when you're trying to sort of have those discussions about what this convoluted process of immigration we have right now is, I go back to that scene where I'm like, what I really need to do is what Jose did in the film, which is go through this sort of checkbox. And I think that's something to think about, is how do we use sort of cultural imagery like this to actually, even just moments from the film, to make complex issues really clear to people in a way that I think is very difficult otherwise. The other piece that I think is this notion of the complexity of the story, and I think the reality of the kind of difficulty of the relationship that you've had with your mother that comes through so clearly, and it's such a function of our broken immigration system. And we talk a lot, and we are talking a lot in New York about the effects of so-called secure communities and deportation policies from the federal level tearing families apart. And this is almost, it reveals the kind of the complexity of that and how that happens, not just through the kind of deportation process, but just through the realities of our laws. And so I think, to me, this was your question was a reminder of how do we use films, how do we use these stories in the work that we do as government to make complex issues accessible to people.
For me, and this actually answers your question that you asked me outside, Jose, what this film does so brilliantly is it disarms the quote-unquote other side. Meaning, time and time again, when you were talking with those that were against immigration reform, you did so in such a way that I was very impressed with, because I don't know if I could have those level-headed, calm conversations with people that were saying those things to me, but you did it in such a way where almost they themselves came to certain realizations on their own, which I think is a very intelligent way to make a point with someone. So I think that this film, what it taught me, and on this local level, is, for lack of a better term, nonviolent communication when dealing with this issue. So to really break it down, when the only way that we are going to push change forward is that we have to engage with the other side. So how do we engage with that other side in a way in which it's not violent, it's not confrontational, it's different, it's new, it's passive. Passive in a way that's peaceful, not passive in a way that you're not doing anything. So I think that that's what I took away from this film that we could apply on a local level.
Empathy. So I think the greatest gift that journalism ever gave me was empathy. I remember when I had to cover Sarah Palin in Ohio in 2008. I was in northeastern Ohio, and I was just really confused. No, I don't mean to be, I was just very I grew up in San Francisco, and I was living in DC at the time, and it's so easy for us to think of people as the other side, right? I don't even think they are the other side. Look, people wake up every day not thinking about me, but thinking about themselves, right? Especially at a time of such economic distress. I remember growing up, you hear so many progressive people use the term white privilege. And now that I've met so many working class white people in Alabama and in Georgia and in Arkansas, I'm like, they don't think they're privileged, they just think I'm taking their country away from them. And how do I talk to them in such a way that, I like your apple pie, here, some lumpia, it's like, that. I really do think that level of engagement is so important. I don't think I would have been able to react the way that I did in Iowa and Alabama in those scenes if I didn't have the training of. And honestly, to be honest with you, that scene in Iowa, when I'm putting up that sign, journalism is everything I've ever had. It's been my church. And because of what I've done, there are many journalists who don't consider me a journalist anymore because I've gone to, quote unquote, the other side. Right? So I remember putting that sign up, thinking, okay, what am I losing and what am I gaining? Right? And this creative freedom, right? I was recently in Miami University, where Paul Ryan went to college. I showed 2 clips from the film, Iowa and Alabama. It's a predominantly white school. The kids were so impressed by the 2 clips, I'm actually going back the week after next to show the whole film. And then to have a much more, a deeper conversation about, okay, where are you on this issue? And I'm so glad you used the word disarming, because that is kind of, in my opinion, that's what I'm here to do. Like, I'm here to like unpack this issue for you, right? The three defining civil rights movements of our time right now are women's rights, LGBT rights, and immigrant rights. All that is at the heart of a demographically and culturally changing America. That's why, by the way, my next film that I'm working on, hopefully we'll start shooting in the fall, later this fall, is Whiteness in Post-Obama America. You know, sometimes I feel like James Baldwin must be smiling somewhere. By the way, did you know that this year is James Baldwin year in the city of New York? You should check that out. Baldwin was really interesting because for me, I mean, thank God, I don't know what I would have done if I didn't meet him if I didn't read his writing when I was in high school. Baldwin kind of introduced this idea of the other in America, right? Baldwin was black and gay at a time in which America was wrestling with the black part and didn't know what to do with the gay part. And Baldwin always insisted on the other being all of us. Well, guess what? That's where we are right now in America. The other is all of us. And you cannot define minority rights until we isolate, quote unquote, what the majority is. And I have never felt, you know, look, I mean, every day, as you know, 1,000 undocumented people get deported. What do? I made a film. So I'm in an incredibly privileged position to be doing what I'm doing. And I feel like my creative self is going to seek to answer the question that we posed at Define American 3 years ago, which is, how do you define American? That's a very specific and broad artistic place to come from. And I don't know, I'm really excited by that, you know?